Inside Sources. Behind-the-scenes experience in Washington and around the world. Here's the opinion page editor of the Deseret News, Boyd Matheson, on KSL News Radio 102.7 FM and 1160 AM.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Inside Sources. I am Boyd Matheson. Great to be with you on a Thursday. Today we have the fastest 30 minutes in radio. It may only be 1 minute today. Fastest 30 minutes in radio. We have a lot of ground to cover today. Very excited to, right off the bat, we're going to jump into this, so don't move. We've got former Senator Orrin Hatch, and we also have Leonard Leo from the Federalist Society, who are both here as part of the Orrin Hatch Foundation. Their conference today, a symposium, Protecting Our Religious Liberty. And these are two individuals who have vast experience in this space, so I'm very excited to dive right in. So first, Senator Hatch, thanks for joining us today.
Well, thanks, Boyd. It's great to hear your voice. I was really pleased with today's event.
Wonderful. And Leonard, it's great to have you here in the great state of Utah.
Privileged to be here. It's good to be with you, Boyd.
Well, wonderful. Well, let's dive right into it. Senator Hatch, let me start with you. Tell us a little bit about what is happening today up there at the University of Utah and why this focus on protecting religious liberty is so critical.
Well, the Hatch Center is the policy arm of the Orrin G. Hatch Foundation. And today we held our very first Religious Liberty Symposium, a bipartisan gathering of faith leaders, legal scholars, and of course policy experts committed to attending defending the rights of conscience. And I think it was a tremendous success. The room was full, and hosting Leonard Leo, who's been a long-term friend from my early days in the Senate, hosting him has been a special opportunity. He's a terrific guy. He runs with Federalist Society. He's a leading voice on religious liberty issues, really a lion of the law, and most importantly, a dear friend whom I've known for many years. I'm so grateful that he would make the trip from Washington to be with us today, and he did a great job talking about religious liberty, as did a number of others. Wonderful.
Well, Leonard, I'm going to go to you now, and as the senator mentioned, you have been in the middle of a lot of these battles for a lot of years. You've also played an extraordinary role in the shaping of the courts, particularly during the Trump administration. I'll come back to that one in a moment. But first, just give me your overall impressions. What were the key takeaways from the event today?
Well, first of all, the most important thing to say is that it's great to have the Hatch Center and the Hatch Foundation up and running. Senator Hatch has been such an important, consequential leader in our country on religious freedom issues and on the rule of law generally. So this was a great tribute to him that this has started. The key takeaways, it seems to me, are that, first of all, the United States needs to be a leader in the protection of religious freedom abroad. And secondly, while certainly the conditions in our country are better than in many across the globe, we need to remain vigilant here at home as well to make sure that the First Amendment is vigorously enforced, defended, and respected.
Wonderful. Senator Hatch, you penned a piece for the Deseret News today, which we were very grateful for, talking about your concerns over some of the rhetoric coming out, particularly out of the left, in terms of expanding the size of the Supreme Court, court packing. Give us some insight on that.
Well, indeed, I believe that court packing is a dangerous idea, and it's getting traction in American politics with the help of a very liberal media in this country. Those who want to pack the court, that is, increase the number of justices serving from 9 to whatever number they deem necessary to win political control over the judicial branch. That's what that means. And as I wrote in my op-ed that appeared yesterday, the consequences of such action would be catastrophic and irreversible. As long as I've been there, I've fought this type of stuff. Now, the court would no longer serve as a shield against oppression, but as a political weapon in the hands of an angry majority. And so these are really important issues, and especially to all of us in Utah, who, whether we're Democrats or Republicans, we believe in religious liberty and in the freedom of conscience.
Yeah. So let me ask you on that idea of the courts. I know that Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, when Mitch McConnell deployed the nuclear option as it relates to a lot of the nominees, he was very critical, saying that the right had lost out on the ideological battle, and so they were going to try to do it through packing the courts, doing it more through the legal system than in the court of public opinion. Give us your take on that. You've played a unique role, particularly in the nominations of Justices Gorsuch and Kavanaugh. How do you think that plays into this?
Well, I stopped this kind of stuff for many, many years. And of course, I personally believe the court packing is a very dangerous idea, even if some Republicans think it's a good idea. I don't think it's a good idea. I think that we've got to approach this differently. But ask Leonard. Leonard has fought these battles with me all the way through.
Yeah, so
he's one of the real winners back there in Washington.
Definitely, yes. Yeah, so Leonard, if you can give us your perspective, again, both in terms of specifics with Justices Gorsuch and Kavanaugh, but how does this play out going forward?
Look, for as long as I can remember, more than 80% of the American people believe that the purpose of our courts is to interpret and enforce the law as it's written, and not to make it up as they go along. That's not the position that the left and the Democrats have taken. They want courts that will achieve very particular outcomes for them, regardless of what the law says. The Democrats in the Senate have time and again, and Senator Hatch can vouch for this, they have time and again changed the rules and engaged in heavy-handed tactics in order to block judges they don't want. To the extent that the judicial confirmation process has escalated over the years, it's always been at their hands. And the fact that Senator McConnell and the Republicans invoked the nuclear option last time around with the confirmation of Neil Gorsuch and then Brett Kavanaugh is simply because Senator Schumer and Senator Reid made it clear that if Hillary Clinton were President of the United States, they would have invoked the nuclear option as well. So let's be candid and honest about this. They've escalated this process from the very start. That's because they depend upon the courts for their political agenda, and the American people don't stand for that. And that's why justices like Neil Gorsuch and Brett Kavanaugh get confirmed, despite the kind of heavy-handed tactics we see from the other side.
Okay. And Leonard, let me stay with you for one more minute, and then we'll get a closing thought from Senator Hatch. You mentioned this idea that the United States needs to not just be vigilant here at home, but we also need to lead out around the world in places where there is not religious liberty, and I'm going to assume with your background, it's also the freedom from religion for people who believe that way as well. But what do you think the United States' role is on the international stage as it comes to these religious liberty rights?
Well, I think that we have a responsibility to put pressure on foreign governments and foreign countries to respect the freedom of religion, or the freedom not to believe, as you put it. And first of all, as a nation, I think we have a duty to do that morally. It's the right thing to do. But secondly, I think that our world will be more prosperous. It will be safer, more secure, more free from terrorism if we have freedom of religion recognized all around the globe. Study after study has shown that if freedom of religion is respected all around the world, you have greater economic prosperity, you have greater global security, you have less violence around the world, and that's something that serves our interests and is also, I think, consistent with a foreign policy that ought to have some key moral objectives.
Wonderful. And Senator Hatch, just in our remaining minute here, you have been one that's engaged in a lot of the conversations of how do we actually balance religious liberty rights with, say, LGBT rights. You've been a part of a lot of important bipartisan conversations where you've actually proven out that we actually can have these two things, that it isn't a mutually exclusive choice or these fake fights or false choices we often see coming out of Washington. What is your hope for the future as it relates to religious liberty and all the other things that we need to have real conversations about here in our country?
Well, as the author of the Religious Freedom Restoration Act, which is one of the most important bills in history, because it a lot of people didn't think that we would have any problems on religious liberty, but we've got all kinds of problems with different groups. But I intend to keep this message going, and Leonard has been a great help in doing that. We have got to be focused on fairness for everybody, not just people that believe the way we do, but for everybody. And I intend to work on that and make sure that we continue to do it. But these are important issues, and Leonard Leo and the Federalist Society, I've been a big supporter of them from day one when I got back there. And, of course, Leonard is a terrific young man who's got a lot of war-fighting ability over all these years, because this is an area that many of the liberals want to change, because they want to be able to to overcome religious belief and religious persuasion in favor of some issues that are really, really awful issues for the country as a whole.
Yeah. Okay. Wonderful. And I really appreciated, Leonard, your comment up at the event today about this religious freedom really being at the center of civil society. And I think that's a core principle we try to live here in Utah, and one hopefully we can replicate around the world. Well, Senator Hatch and Leonard Leo, again, great conference today, great symposium on religious liberty, religious freedom. We appreciate your efforts in a really critical area. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Boyd.
Thank you.
All right.